I think they each would have approved of it in their own ways. In Aemon's case, what Jon did was essentially the inverse of Aemon's earlier talk with Jon about duty, which Jon and Tyrion both allude to. If love prevents you from doing your duty, then fulfilling your duty can mean letting a poisonous love go. Aemon fulfilled his duty to the Watch by staying at his post even though it meant he couldn't help his remaining family members. When it came down to love or duty, he chose duty. Just like Jon chose duty to the realms of men, the same oath Aemon took even if Jon no longer identified as a Night's Watch brother, when he killed Daenerys even though he loved her, because the alternative, leaving her alive to murder who knows how many people, including probably his siblings, would have been worse. And Jon's sense of duty to the rest of the country trumped whatever obligation he had to Dany personally. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and also click on the notification bell to remain updated. Ned is generally perceived as more rigid in terms of oath-breaking, with his attitude toward Jaime being the standout example. So the thinking goes that if Ned has disdain for Jaime for killing Aerys, he'd surely disapprove of Jon killing Dany. But the key is that Ned never knew why Jaime really killed Aerys. From Ned's perspective, it looks like bald opportunism and moral cowardice. If Ned knew why Jaime had killed Aerys, he'd probably view it differently. There's a huge difference between killing someone to save 500,000 people from getting incinerated, and just doing it to help out your dad at the last minute. The other key to Ned's character is that for all his reputation for honor, he pretty invariably chooses mercy and the safety of his family as the highest priority. It's why he lied about fathering a bastard, why he gave Cersei the chance to run before he told Robert, and why he ultimately professed the legitimacy of a king he knew had no right to the throne. And obviously Ned's own feudal obligation to Aerys wasn't mindless enough such that Ned presented his own neck for unlawful chopping when the time came. Ned would probably see saving the lives of untold people as worth the stain on Jon's honor that Dany's death would bring. Kill a tyrant you love and idiotically swore allegiance to, or step aside and be culpable in whatever atrocities that tyrant commits next because you didn't stop her. What would be harder for Jon to live with? And, let's be real, whatever else Dany had planned, you'd have to be pretty goddamn thick to conclude that Ned would weigh her death against the imminent killings of Sansa, Arya and probably Bran and think Jon should have let Dany live and beat her dad's record for most murdered Starks. I think that if Ned had any bone to pick with Jon, it'd be getting into that position in the first place, namely, swearing fealty to Dany at all and participating in and lending legitimacy to her war crime. A lot of blinkered judgment and bad choices led Jon to that conclusion, but that last action wasn't the wrong one. Finally, while Ned would think Jon did the right thing, he'd also say that Jon should bear the consequences of it, just as Ned did with his decisions. Whether that means imprisonment or execution or exile or taking the black, if doing the right thing has a cost, you have to pay it. They would have understood. Both men loved their families, but they also knew their duty and they knew the delicate balancing act that sometimes needed to be placed between the two. And they also understood that there were times when you would have to pick one over the other. But because of what Daenerys had done, they never would have held killing Daenerys against Jon. Daenerys had gone too far after all. By the time Jon had made up his mind to kill her and then did so, Daenerys had deliberately razed a city with a population the size of millions to the ground even after they were ringing the bells to surrender, had refused to take responsibility for why she had done it, and had made it very clear that she was not finished, that she was only just getting started. Up until their last conversation in front of the Iron Throne, I don't think that Jon had fully decided whether or not he was going to kill Daenerys, even after his conversations with Tyrion and Arya. He was still on the bench about it. It was only during his last conversation with her when she made it very clear that she was going to keep doing this that Jon realized that she wasn't going to change. And Jon has always been a person who puts his duty first. A duty to his realm by preventing any more King's Landings, and a duty to his family because he knew that sooner or later, and more than likely sooner, Daenerys was going to go back up north to Winterfell and to Sansa, who she did not like and who didn't like her. So he had to kill her. And both men would have understood. Ned had lived through Aerys' reign after all, and if he had personally seen the destruction that Daenerys had brought onto King's Landing, it might have given him a very sobering realization of just what level of destruction anyone with dragons were capable of. And I don't think he ever would have forgiven Jon if Jon had stood by and let Daenerys decide to King's Landing, Sansa and Winterfell. He would have understood Jon's circumstances. The same with Aemon. He would have naturally been devastated that one family member had killed the other, especially as his house is almost dead. But at the same time, he was a man who knew his duty. It was him where the quote, "Love is the death of duty. Duty is the death of love," comes from. Had he and Jon been able to have a conversation together after all of that, he would have told Jon that he understood and that Jon had done what he had to do. Neither man would hold it against Jon, nor would they think any less of him because of it. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like this video and drop comments. And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything.